Theresa May goes into her second meaningful vote in the House of Commons, having secured what we are told is a legally binding change to her Brexit deal. A change the European Commission President, Jean-Claude Juncker, says is final, and if the deal is voted down, there was no third chance. So Alexandra Kellert joins us now on the phone from London-based global risk specialist, Control Risks. Alexandra, good to talk to you, and what a moment to speak as well, because we've got this vote tonight in the House of Commons. What are your views on the deal which Cabinet Office Minister David Lidington said last night will not trap the UK in the Irish backstop indefinitely? What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think it changes a huge amount. I think there will be a few MPs who will look at this and it will almost sort of give them the excuse that they were looking for to change their mind and vote for a deal. But I think the most entrenched kind of hardline pro-Brexit MPs will see this as not actually offering them what they were looking for, which was to really get rid of the backstop entirely and replace it with so-called alternative arrangements. So in terms of tonight's vote, I think Theresa May will still lose it, but it will be a smaller loss than the one in January.
Do you think it'll be small enough for Theresa May to say, look, hang on a minute, we've got to rediscuss this, redebate it, address the issues which are causing a problem, and then go back again to the House of Commons without any further amendments? Or do you think that it'll still nonetheless be a sizable enough vote to suggest that perhaps maybe the whole thing's dead in the water?
I mean, I think what we've learned about Theresa May over recent months is that it seems almost nothing is significant enough for it to indicate to her that something is dead in the water. I think what's interesting is assuming that the government loses the vote on the deal this evening, what then happens is we have these next votes on leaving with no deal and then seeking an extension. So in a way, because those are there as sort of already entrenched next steps, she almost doesn't need to make a call on that until after those votes have taken place.
OK, well, let's examine, first of all, about this backstop. How popular is the Irish backstop to the EU? We're hearing a lot about the opposition here within the UK parliamentary system. I ask about the EU because the Environment Secretary, Michael Gove, has been speaking this morning, and he says that the UK, if the UK was in the backstop, the UK would have unfettered access to the EU markets, but the EU nationals would not be free to come to the UK. Also, he says that EU fishermen would not have access to UK waters, but the UK fishermen would be able to sell the fish they catch here within the UK to the EU. Is all this right? If it is the case, surely this backstop has got perhaps possibly maybe more opposition within the EU than it does have here in the UK.
Yeah, I think that's one of those interesting things is the way that the backstop has been presented in kind of the UK media and amongst particularly the hard right of the Conservative Party, is that it's been presented as this kind of thing that the EU wants to impose on the UK. Now, obviously, the EU considers it necessary to secure the soft border in Northern Ireland, but there's definitely nothing within the backstop that the EU would want to keep on a permanent basis. And what has often been lost is that actually almost Theresa May's biggest victory in the entire Brexit negotiations was when she convinced the EU to allow the backstop to cover the whole UK and not just Northern Ireland, which was something that the EU really didn't want to do.
Let's examine this business about where now. You mentioned the potential further votes are around the EU. What are your thoughts on the next couple of days? How do you think Parliament will group around the proposal to delay Brexit and possibly also remove a no-deal Brexit option?
I certainly think that Parliament will vote to remove the no-deal option. There's really only a small number of MPs, probably fewer than 100, who actively would want to pursue a no deal. So I think they will vote to take no deal off the table, although obviously no deal will remain the legal default until something else is put in place to replace it. In terms of the extension, this is, I think, slightly more controversial, and there are hugely diverging views on this. But I think, again, the House of Commons will vote to request an extension. It just then, there are lots of questions about how long an extension, what do you do with that extension? Because if Theresa May's deal really has reached the end of the line, then there has to be essentially a plan B. We can't just ask for extra time to look at that again. I think, will be the EU's response.
And I think one of the other interesting things about this is that yesterday we were hearing the Brexit campaign group, Leave Means Leave, has demanded the UK is able to take part in the European elections in May. How much of an issue is this going to be to any permission to take the extension into and past the 29th of March, so far as the EU is concerned? Because I can't see the EU is necessarily going to be wanting to see the return of the Euroscepticism that the British MEPs bring to the council chamber in the European Union. I would have thought that they'd wanted to have had this Brexit deal wrapped up and gone and forgotten about as soon as the elections come round.
I mean, I think in an ideal world they would like that, but I think generally the EU is quite pragmatic on this, and certainly the European elections do pose a bit of a conundrum. So one option would be to seek a short extension to up to the very latest would be the start of July, which is when the new European Parliament takes office. And I think that is what Theresa May will look to ask for. However, the obvious problem with that is, what if everything doesn't get sorted by then? So in a way, the UK taking part in the European elections keeps options open and means that we wouldn't end up with this kind of mad panic again at the end of sort of May, June. But I think we're away yet from it being widely acceptable within the kind of UK political establishment.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting situation to be in. We'll see how that vote goes this evening in the House of Commons. But in the meantime, Alexandra Kellert, thanks indeed for joining us with your views on where we are after Theresa May's breakthrough with the European Union last night. That was Alexandra Kellert from Control Risks.